Buckle up and get ready for a ride into the lives of Guyanese Americans.
When a Guyanese do, be wary.
Join us as we get to know this community whose members come in every color and creed.
Our country is very diverse.
We'll see how they add so much flavor and spice, not only to their food, but to their surroundings as well. Coming up on the next World in America.
Guyanese Americans are a unique blend.
Guyanese Americans are an amazingly diverse set of people.
Primarily, they're a mixed group of people that has come here to America, and hard-working set of folks.
They haven't really changed much, even though they're in a different country.
We slipped right into the mosaic that is America.
They have blended in very nicely.
Anywhere, I'll go on you. Anywhere.
South America is home to many nations. One of the smaller but vibrant of these nations is Guyana. Located in the northern part of this continent, Guyana is a land of splendid beauty. Its inland is still 90% unpopulated, dotted with evergreen rainforests. First discovered and inhabited by the Arawak and Carib tribes of Amerindians, similar to many nations in Africa, Asia, and South America, Guyana had to go through multiple colonizations since the 17th century.
Guyana had gone through several changes. You had the Dutch, you had the French, and the Spanish, but ultimately the British took over and ran Guyana, from the 40s right through.
In 1831, the Kingdom of Great Britain formed this new colony under the name of British Guyana. Enslaved Africans were transported as a part of the transatlantic slave trade. After the abolition of slavery in 1834, work in the sugar plantations was taken care of by indentured laborers, mostly made up of Indians along with Portuguese, Chinese, and others.
So our Indian heritage, we came as indentured people. Our African heritage, we came initially as slaves.
Our country is very diverse.
This diversity is the result of multiple nationalities moving to Guyana, giving birth to the term the Land of Six People.
The largest segment of the population are Indo-Guyanese and Afro-Guyanese. And we have Guyanese who are of Portuguese origin, Chinese origin. We have the native Amerindians. We have local Europeans. And then, of course, you've got all the mixtures. And we've got a lot of them.
This diverse and dynamic nation stayed under the British rule for more than 130 years, and eventually it achieved its long-awaited independence.
Well, Guyana became independent in 1966 after much to do with the two political parties who were very certain on making Guyana become an independent nation.
Primarily, any migration out of Guyana was towards Britain. But after its independence, the new address for Guyanese immigrants became the United States of America.
The biggest influx of Guyanese started around 60 to 69. And then the second wave started also in the late 70s or in the early 70s. And again, the mass migration had to do with the political situation in Guyana.
Meet Varuna Singh. He and his family represent one of the many stories of the Guyanese experience in the U.S.
I have a real estate company in Kew Gardens. I'm also an investor. I buy and sell property. I was here in 1968 as a student, and I kind of really liked it. I went back in '74 to Guyana to do my public service, met my wife, and after a few years we decided to come back to America.
I have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl.
These are called marigolds.
You leave your country with nothing at all. I did 3 jobs. I was a nurse. Because I could not afford babysitting, sometimes I used to take my 2 kids to the hospital.
Well, this is the jerk chicken I'm doing. You know, it's almost done.
I really, really like America. I like the diversity. I like the institutions that are available. I felt it was an ideal place to bring up my kids because of the amount of opportunities for personal growth. Guyanese Americans have come here, they've sacrificed, many of them have worked 2, 3 jobs. They've struggled, they've lived very meager lives, and I hope somewhere down the road their children are really going to look back and appreciate the sacrifices they have made for them as our ancestors made for us who came from India to Guyana.
All of those sacrifices have certainly paid off. Today, the new generation of Guyanese Americans continue to keep up the main ingredients of their traditions. Without a doubt, the very first one is respect.
Respect. That's a key thing for Guyanese. It's sort of the hallmark of the Guyanese society.
Respect the elders very much.
When we meet elders, we normally bow and touch their feet.
We have this respect. Like when we see an aunt or uncle, we'll say, you know, Auntie Stella, or we'll say, like my aunt is Stella.
We bow to our elders. Sometimes we refer to them as auntie, uncle.
Of course, distinctly Guyanas. You know, if you tell me something and I didn't like it, I'm gonna stoops on you. And by doing that, if I did,
Girl.
you know that's a Guyanese. I turn around when I hear that automatically, because when a Guyanese do, be wary. That person is really, really mad.
It's the equivalent of saying, please, you know.
Sharda Singh is another hardworking Guyanese American. She gives back to her community as a full-time public school teacher.
Okay. It's just like with CDs. A lot of you buy CDs, right? No. Sometimes they have an intro on the CD. Sometimes they have an intro, and sometimes they have what they call an outro. Have you ever heard of that? An intro and an outro.
I teach theater and English at a high school in Little Guyana, which has maybe the highest population of Guyanese students. So I'm right there in the trenches with them. I see a lot of how my people are changing every day because I'm with these kids. Every year there's a new stock of 14-year-old freshmen, and I see every year how they're changing and changing.
Okay guys, now put these essays away. We're gonna start acting out Romeo and Juliet. So I'm gonna ask you guys to just move back a little bit.
They need more teachers like her who looks into the heart of children. And there are a lot of special kids out there, but they just don't know they have the talent, unless somebody like Sharda can bring it out.
Sharda's teaching theater should come as no surprise. She herself is an up-and-coming playwright.
I kind of just grew into it. My plays are just about my experiences as a Guyanese person, as an Indian person, as a female.
I swear upon your mother grave, if you don't come to Guyana...
That's another important issue throughout my work, being a female. The culture clash, I think it really hits Guyanese women hard. It really affects Guyanese women.
Guyanese girls don't do this, Guyanese girls don't do that. We're in America now, Dad.
For Sharda, one of the best ways of venting out a long day of hard work is to attend her Korean martial arts class. And guess what? So many other Guyanese are doing the same thing.
Grab his wrist, move into him and down. Yes, sir? Yes, sir. All right, we're gonna work in the wrist lock.
A lot of the females in my family are very strong mentally and physically. I've always been a gym rat. I've always been going to the gym, and I just felt like the routine at the gym got boring, and I needed to mix it up. It was right up my alley. You know, it has a spiritual aspect to it, and it's physical as well. I definitely wanted to go to a martial arts school where a lot of people from my background were going, because it's also a social outlet. My people, they really keep me grounded. I've learned to respect a lot of those little Guyanese kids that you see, no matter how their bone structures might be small. When you see what they could do in the martial arts school, it makes you think, wow, you cannot judge a book by its cover.
The Guyanese are particularly entrepreneurs. So we had a group of people who were coming here looking to open their stores, looking to open their temples, looking to build schools and things like that. And we had to get acquainted with the system.
I moved to Richmond Hill in 1983, I think it was. Within a matter of a few years, Indo-Guyanese just bought Richmond Hill house after house. Everything about Richmond Hill reminds them of Guyana.
Richmond Hill is popularly known as Little Guyana.
You gotta own land. You gotta be able to plant. We're planters.
A lot of the Guyanese immigrants, you'll see them on Liberty. They'll be renting out part of the house. Soon you'll see it turn into this big palace in a couple of years. So they're very good at building.
You have Sybil's. Like as soon as you get into Richmond Hill, you see the big yellow store, and everybody goes there. You actually have to be on a line to get food at Sybil's. It's so popular.
This Guyana where I come from, my Guyana makes me so proud. Demerara full of sugar, Essequibo full of water.
Sybil's has 4 locations across New York City. It is another Guyanese-American success story that is worth listening to.
My mom is Sybil. She's the one that started this business. She's left us to run her, to carry on, and it's been a blessing for us.
Just like its people, Guyanese cuisine is also very diverse, with Indian, African, and Asian flavors. One of the key Indian influence on Guyanese cuisine is the buttery roti. It is a must-have side bread to enjoy along any Indo-Guyanese curry dish.
This is roti or puri. First of all, we put peas in this. The peas inside of the dough. We roll it out in this way and bake it on the grill. So they call this puri.
The Chinese who came to work in Guyana also brought with them the lo mein. Chopped vegetables are fried along with either seasoned meat or chicken. Freshly boiled noodles are added to the dish. The last but most important touch is adding oyster sauce, soy sauce, and some secret Guyanese sauces that give its yummy flavor. The oldest and most indigenous Guyanese dish is the pepper pot. It goes all the way back to Amerindians and their genius way of preserving meat for over a month without refrigeration.
I crave for pepper pot. I don't make it often enough, but any place I go and somebody has made pepper pot, I know that's a Guyanese family.
Even though it has meat in it, if you reheat it ever so often, it can last for days, and it doesn't need refrigeration.
In Germany, I've been to London and Old England.
They went out, found meat, and put it in a pot, and it's a way of storing the meat without the usual refrigeration. And then they use the casserie from the cassava that gives it its color, and it blends into a very succulent dish.
The staple side dish that all ethnicities of Guyana enjoy is a hearty bread. Sybil's bakes hundreds of them on a daily basis, and the secret is letting them ferment overnight.
Tell me when you're going to Guyana. Guyana. Take me on that trip to Guyana.
Guyana is a melting pot because the cultures all enjoy each other's food. It's not like anyone wouldn't eat this or wouldn't eat that. Variety is the spice of life. Why should we not enjoy it?
Sybil's is not the only Little Guyana establishment that holds the community together. Sandy's Roti is another popular neighborhood hangout that the Singh family frequents. And roti is not the only item they sell.
Let me get the door for you.
Can we get 2 doubles of tamarind sauce?
You put tamarind?
Yeah. It's already in the double. They put it in.
Personally compiled from a variety of songs, the mixtapes are a vital part of food joints in Little Guyana. They provide an outlet for chutney music, which derives elements from Caribbean dance and Indian film music.
Let's see what chutney they have.
Chutney means mix-up, right? So basically that's what the music is. It's a mix-up of all these different sounds, and it can sound very, it could sound chaotic to an outsider, but it's just so much music, so much energy. That's what it's about.
Sharda makes sure to get a mixtape or two when she visits Sandy's Roti to keep her ears tuned to chutney music.
Oh, there you are. Look this way. Like, what did you disappear to? What'd you buy?
It has Radica on it. The song Radica. I didn't know it had this back in the day song on it. Roll up the tassa. It goes roll up the tassa, me sessa. Right, remember?
Yeah, all those old school sounds. It's hot music. You know, like the people, they're hot. When Indo-Caribbeans dance, they put their whole energy into it, you know?
Chutney has become sort of a critical part of our music heritage, and that is bringing directly out of the Caribbean, mixing the Indo religion, and then using some of that drumming that makes us sort of like, you know, people that move and dance. And that came out of our religious heritage.
Celebrated by all the different ethnic groups of Guyana, chutney music is another cultural glue that keeps the Guyanese Americans connected. Guyanese Americans make sure to keep their ties with each other. Towards this end, Mr. Bobby Vera, the vice president of One Caribbean Radio, put together a Guyanese reunion day in Brooklyn, New York, for all the Guyanese folk to reconnect with long-lost friends and enjoy each other's company.
You know, people leave and they migrate and they disappear and they lose track of good friends and even relatives to some extent. And the opportunity here is for people to come together and really rekindle relationships.
Invented by the people of Trinidad and Tobago, steel band music is a popular music form across the Caribbean. The Guyanese love it, and the melodies of the steel drums draw them closer to their home.
Steel band music was born in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was adopted by many other countries throughout the Caribbean, and Guyana, of course, no exception. So you could go to almost every island or country in the Caribbean, and you will hear band music. Especially at carnival times. You know, people jump in the streets, they go out, they dance and they masquerade, they wear their costumes, and the steel band plays an integral part of it.
This colorful community keeps their eyes on the prize. While becoming a major integral part of the United States, they look towards the future as being even brighter and better.
You know, Guyanese Americans, Guyanese in general, and most Caribbean people have always been very industrious. They buy homes, they buy property, they set up and establish businesses. So it is something that, you know, Guyanese and the Caribbean national as a whole do look forward to when they come here. And there's a brilliant future.
In terms of the Guyanese here that choose to remain here, the future is bright because they're articulate, they're intelligent, and they're hardworking. And they're, you know, if you look among all the populations of the immigrants, the Guyanese are the biggest set of folks that own their own homes. So they're immersed themselves into the American, not through assimilation, but through a culture that came with them. They always want to own their own homes, they always want to be educated. So the future is very bright for young Guyanese. People that has come here to America and hard-working set of folks.
They haven't really changed much, even though they're in a different country.
We slipped right into the mosaic that is America.
They have blended in very nicely.
Anywhere, Sanko want you. Anywhere. Anywhere, anywhere. Anywhere. Anywhere, Sanko want you.
South America is home to many nations. One of the smaller but vibrant of these nations is Guyana. Located in the northern part of this continent, Guyana is a land of splendid beauty. Its inland is still 90% unpopulated, dotted with evergreen rainforests. First discovered and inhabited by the Arawak and Carib tribes of Amerindians, similar to many nations in Africa, Asia, and South America, Guyana had to go through multiple colonizations since the 17th century.
Guyana had gone through several changes. You had the Dutch, you had the French, and the Spanish, but ultimately the British. Guyanese Americans are a unique blend.
Guyanese Americans are an amazingly diverse set of people.
Primarily, they're a mixed group of people. Took over and ran Guyana, you know, from the 40s right through.
In 1831, the Kingdom of Great Britain formed this new colony under the name of British Guyana. Enslaved Africans were transported as a part of the transatlantic slave trade. After the abolition of slavery in 1834, work in the sugar plantations was taken care of by indentured laborers, mostly made up of Indians along with Portuguese. Buckle up and get ready for a ride into the lives of Guyanese Americans.
When a Guyanese do, be wary.
Join us as we get to know this community whose members come in every color and creed.
Our country is very diverse.
We'll see how they add so much flavor and spice, not only to their food, but to their surroundings as well. Coming up on the next World in America.